Engström, and I'm the co-founder and executive director of Sime Social Impact. And I'm very, very happy to be here today because it's been 6 years ago since we started this. And we not only survived this period, but we also have been the catalyst for change that we wanted to be. Every year our goal has been not only to invite 200 nonprofit organizations and social entrepreneurs for free to mix and mingle and meet everybody, but also to make marriages, as we call it, like arranged marriages or spontaneous marriages that happen here between the nonprofit sector and the social entrepreneurial sector, and then companies. And that is so important. And people come up to me and tell me about these things that happens here. And they're lovely, but if you have any more, just tell me, because I love to hear about these. And I'm going to run through a little bit of what's going to happen here today and tomorrow with the Sime Social Impact Initiative. First of all, this is the first workshop with Ben & Jerry's, soon to be introduced. But at 3:30 today, just after the main stage session ends, 3:45, we're going to have a bus leaving outside here, which will take us to Epicenter, where we will have a collaboration with Ekskäret. I don't know if you know about that, but the foundation Ekskäret is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful foundation that works with value-driven initiatives and how to use values in your everyday work to find flow as a leader of your organization or your company. And there's going to be a workshop that mixes nonprofits and companies. So you're more than welcome, but there are only 40 seats. So be there at the bus in order to get there on time. And then tomorrow, there's a workshop at 1 o'clock with Richard Green, and he's been dubbed the Master of Charisma by a lot of companies and newspapers. He's the speech coach or public speaking coach to Hillary Clinton, presidents, CEOs, Hollywood stars, and so on. And he would talk to the nonprofit sector about how to sell your message as a nonprofit organization and the 7 secrets of public speaking. So you're more than welcome to that, and I'm very happy to see you here today. And now we're to introduce Ben & Jerry and Interpeace. Sophia here is the Nordic Social Mission Manager for Ben & Jerry's. She's just started her job there, and before then, she was management consulting and business. She's been working there, sorry. And she's also been in the nonprofit sector and the for-profit sector, which we love. Right now, Ben & Jerry, they have a social mission manager in every sector or part of the world where they are. And they decided to focus on the Nordics, on Sweden. And she's the first one here, building their social mission team in Sweden. And then we have Thomas from Interpeace, who was a promising football player, but decided to stop that and focus on young adults and how they can be integrated in society. Young adults that live in segregated areas and how they can get a job. He now works for Interpeace and makes great progress there. So welcome, Sophia. The stage is yours.
Thank you, Therese, for that introduction. Okay. I'm really inspired to be here with all this brain power today. I think that that's excellent. And as Mia Brunell said this morning, let's have some friction so we can start a fire. And I hope that after you've listened to the Ben & Jerry's work and what we're doing with Interpeace, that you'll want to join us in starting that fire. So let's have a productive 45 minutes. And if you have questions throughout, it's a bit difficult to see you now, but please go on ahead and ask them, because I think that this is the forum really to get some disruptive models going. So yeah, just some quick market research out there. Has everybody tried Ben & Jerry's ice cream? Okay, good. Everybody likes it? I'm always trying to see if it's a friendly audience or not I'm working with. That's good. How many of you know anything about the work that Ben & Jerry's does outside of the ice cream? Not so many, a few, but not so many. Good. That's an opportunity for us to learn here today. So let's see if we can get the slides going here. So it all started with Ben and Jerry, of course. Two guys in 1978 who had a vision of really, really excellent ice cream with excellent ingredients in it. But they also had another small, tiny vision, and that's that they wanted to be a catalyst for change for also the people and the planet. Fast forward now from 1978 to 2015. This quote that I have from our CEO is actually from the 2015 Social and Environmental Impact Assessment Report. Now, Ben & Jerry's measures all of the social indicators every year. We were actually one of the first companies that started to do this in 1988, which if you're kind of a sustainability nerd like I am, you find those kind of things very interesting. But under the device that what gets measured gets done, Ben & Jerry's has been measuring how we're doing every year since 1988. And there are continuous improvements that we need to do. But we do see that measuring it and focusing on it is a way to actually improve the situation. So now, at about this point, you might be asking yourselves, what can an ice cream company do? This is quite a lofty quote. We speak to the aspiring activist in everyone. And it's a fair question. What can an ice cream company do? You can ask it. I think that if you think about what ice cream stands for, it's a very universally liked, fun type of activity that you can do together. I mean, ice cream is something that brings people together. So I think starting from that device is the first aspect. But the second aspect is also to think, what can a values-driven or a purpose-driven company do today? How can we live our values and how can we have an impact? So we have an impact through this model, the linked prosperity. And it may look a bit, what does this mean? But actually, it's quite simple. What we know is that if our business prospers, if our business does good, then we want also our suppliers to do good. We want our employers to do good. We want our customers to do good. If we prosper, then the people around us in our community, they should profit and prosper too, in a fair and in an equitable way. That's important. That drives us. We have a number of aspirations. We're aware that we're a climate company, or an ice cream company, that has an impact on climate. Of course, we know that. We've done extensive life cycle assessments. We know that about 52% of our CO2 emissions come from the cows. Ice cream is made from cows and milk. We have programs where we work with our farmers, both in the Netherlands and in Vermont, where we see that we help them take care of the soil and the cows and the people who work on the farms and help them maintain and actually look for new and innovative ways which they can reduce their CO2 and their carbon footprint. We also work with all of our ingredients. The ice cream that you enjoy, I see some people are enjoying it now, so that's great. It has, vanilla, nuts, banana, sugar, cocoa, coffee. Where do these commodities come from? They come from Latin America, they come from Africa, they come from farmers there. And we work extensively with these farmers to see that they have a fair and equitable future, that they can also adapt to the climate change and to the things that are happening around them so that they can have a sustainable and prosperous future as well. So that's important to us. We have a target of actually reducing our carbon footprint by 80% by 2050. So continuously in our aspirations, we're working on the climate side and the consequences of climate change. But we also have another little aspect, which I find interesting, which speaks to the social activist in all of you. And that's that we don't want to see unjust behavior and unfair circumstances and not speak out and not use our voice in that area. How do we do this? How do we use our voice? I mean, I've talked you through some of the internal programs that we have, where sustainability really is mainstream through all our operations. But how can we say that we want to be speaking to the aspiring activists in our customer? Is that credible? How do we do it? We have a three-part mission. So we don't only concern ourselves with the product and the best ingredients and the best ice cream and the best possible ingredients made in the best possible way. We don't only concern ourselves with our financial growth, with the sustainable growth of our company, but we concern ourselves also with our social mission. And that's where we really can make an impact and use our company in an innovative way. Do we do this every day? I would argue that we do. In 2000, we were acquired by Unilever. We do still retain an independent board of directors. Each one of these is a social and environmental activist, basically very well known in their field. And they have final say on product and on social mission. They guide us. They say that, no, this is, you need to put more of your emphasis and focus there. As Therese was talking about, we've invested in a team of social mission managers across the world. We have a team in Vermont, we have a team in London, and we have one person in each of our key European markets. The objective of that person is just to drive the social mission. That's all, not to worry about selling the ice cream. Selling the ice cream comes later from being authentic. We also, as I was talking about before, we measure our social impact. We have about 15 to 20 indicators that are measured on an annual basis, and our board makes sure that this happens as well. And if they don't grow at a faster rate than our economic metrics, then we're not getting the job done. And that's stated, so that's what we do every day on a daily basis. And that's how we can ensure that the social mission is living within us. Now, I've talked you through a little bit about what's in the ice cream and the kind of programs and what's important for us. But to be a social activist company, what can we do outside of the ice cream? What can we do to really wake the little aspiring activist in all of you? We partner with other organizations. We partner with NGOs, we partner with grassroots organizations, we partner with charities and not-for-profits. They have the knowledge, they have the understanding, they have their ear to the ground. They can tell us what's happening and help us and support us in our movements. We can support them. We can support them with our resources through actually driving social media campaigns in the media. We can act as a megaphone. We can extend their audience to a much wider following. We have about 8 million followers on Facebook in Europe today. That's not counting the US. So, do we walk the talk? What does it mean being a social activist company? These are some of the campaigns that we have launched over the years. A few of them were actually in Ben & Jerry's time, so one of the original ones that he started with. We've campaigned on everything to marriage equality, climate justice, when we had the Paris Agreement, which we're crossing our fingers for the success of now, considering recent developments. But we were there campaigning. We've campaigned the EU. We have actually published last week a letter to the President-elect Trump. We have made a statement on Black Lives Matter. We are not afraid of being controversial and standing out if it's in line with our progressive values. In fact, that is when we really should be taking a stance, because that's when it's important. Corporations are one of the most powerful entities we have today. It is their responsibility to take action and to actually leave our world okay for coming generations. And that's something that needs to be taken seriously. consumers every day are hit with about 5,000 brand messages coming at them. Can you imagine if you just, think what would happen if just a fraction of those messages would be based on social values or justice or something else? I mean, we could just leave consumer excess behind and move towards driving a social movement if we could just use a tiny bit of that force. So how do we drive our activist campaigns? As I said, we have our credible partners that we work with, and it is a true partnership. We're going to be talking about that a bit later. So we do that. We have all our channels with social media and opinion articles and so forth. But we also bring the ice cream. We bring a bit of fun. We put a bit of light on these very, very heavy topics. So we are working right now on a campaign called One Sweet World. And what does that mean? Well, I am sure many of you, are very anxious about the results of last week and about the global events that are hitting us like bricks, one thing after another. What we see in media, what we see in politics, and what we see in events when there's trends of lots of moving people and increased immigration and refugees and people who need help, we see a growing divide. Instead of people coming together, people are being torn apart. We see a lot of growing hate. We see a lot of growing fear. And Ben & Jerry's thinks that is just not very cool. So we are launching our campaign called One Sweet World to combat this, to increase the dialogue about these issues. And I'm going to show a small film now that's actually the Sweden premiere for this film, so you guys can have a chance to tell me what you think about it later. So maybe we can show the film.
I put my hands up for the call, but I must look like the wall. Oh, 'cause nobody seems to see, nobody seems to need me there. So must I only dream of days where they will see another way? Well, they can think of other things to blame on me. So how am I the only one to see the world a different way? So shame on me for trying, oh shame on me. Cause I'm not the only one. Let's stick together now, one sweet world. Cause I'm not the only one. Let's stick together in one sweet world.
Yeah, so we hope that you will join us on this movement. And I just want to leave you with one final note, and it's by Nelson Mandela. I mean, we can argue here about the impact of one person taking a stand and what that means, but to not take a stand and not take a position is the same as taking a stand and taking a position. So I think that if we all come together, we can really have social movements and social change. And if we're ready to take a stand, then I hope that you and all of us will consider that our choices reflect our hopes rather than our fears. So you're very welcome to join us and go to our Facebook page and go to our website and see how you can interact with us. And yeah, now looking forward to talking to you about our partnership with Interpeace.
Do this. Well, thank you, Sophia. And I would like to ask Thomas to tell us a little bit more about yourself and your background at Interpeace.
Well, I can start by telling. Can you hear me? Good. All right, my name is Thomas Emmanuel. I'm 28 years old. I have parents that come from Eritrea. And I live and I work in a small town called Tensta, which is a suburb in Stockholm of Sweden. So I work for Interpeace, and short about Interpeace is that is a non-profit international peace organization that works in over 20 different countries in this world and created by the United Nations in '94. So my role in this work is I'm a facilitator, I do research, I lead discussions, I meet with local actors in different areas. I meet with partners, and yeah, I do different kind of work. And the past 2 years, we've been working on social inclusion and political inclusion in Sweden. And you know, Interpeace basically works in conflict areas where there is war, where there's real conflicts, like Guatemala, where there's youth violence, gang violence. They work in Burundi and Somaliland to kind of legitimize the election there. And so when they came to Sweden and to Tensta, I was kind of, you know, shocked. I'm like, we have some issues, you know, but it's not war. But I've come to understand that peace is not the absence of war. It's rather the presence of peace while we're creating our society. And so we work to give the local people a voice in society.
And what is your role? What do you do exactly there?
My role is I'm a facilitator. So we have different discussion groups. We've been working on 4 different areas in Sweden, which is Tensta, where we based our work in 2013. And the past 2 years, we've been working in Rosengård in Malmö, which is an area looks like Tensta, both socioeconomically, and it's very diverse. We have over 90 different nationalities that lives in one area. So it's pretty integrated, but not to the rest of the society. But we also work in Luleå and Älvsjö, which is more like the mainstream Swedish society with the middle income and not so diverse, so to say. But to really find out like how an inclusive society can look like in Sweden for different people. So with the help of Ben & Jerry's, we might spread the message of how Sweden could be more including in terms of social benefits, in terms of economic benefits, social benefits.
Thank you.
So we recently just launched our report. I have a couple if somebody wants, but I don't have 100, so we can maybe exchange contacts. But yeah.
Okay, thanks. And Sophia, why did you and Ben & Jerry's choose to partner with Interpeace? What was the reason behind that?
Well, as I said before, we really look for credible partners, grassroots partners who know what they're doing and who can be our ear to the ground. But there's also another element of it, and that's we recently commissioned a piece of study in the UK that's looked at a few different European countries. And what we see that's happening in the rhetoric here today when countries are becoming more diverse and when there's a more socioeconomic unrest as well, is that about 25% of the population, they are convinced that integration is a good thing. So we decide we don't want to focus on them because that's preaching to the choir. 25% already have a view of integration that it's negative. So we see, okay, that they're convinced there. But the other 50% of the population is this anxious middle that can be swayed depending on fear, depending on if you don't have any contacts with different backgrounds, if you're not in a diverse kind of context. So, I mean, it's this group that we want to reach with the message that Thomas and his team are finding out in Tensta.
Yes, and you create social campaigns and use social media for that together and lift each other. Is that the recipe?
Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah.
And, basically, what the report find out is what stands in the way for inclusion. How could we, include others? How could be included? So, I think, by bringing the voices from the local society into the policymakers and also to civil society, we can make like a social impact. And with the help with Ben and Jerry as a megaphone, not only as a megaphone, but as you said before, ice cream brings people together. It makes people happy. So it has a function.
Yeah.
And what we believe is like everybody has a role to play in improving the.
It's quite a unique partnership, though, still.
Yeah.
It is. But so do you have any key lessons that you learned that you can share with the audience that perhaps you want to?
Well, you should, what we learn is that you can't really underestimate the power of, the individuals. So, as I said, I believe that everybody has a role to play, whether you're a civil society or if you're NGO, if you're political party leader, everybody has a role to play.
Okay.
And also, there's no single recipe for creating peace, I think.
Oh, no quick fixes.
No quick fixes. It should be tailored by the needs and the problem of the local areas, and that's what we're trying to improve, the local ownership. That's why I'm hired as a young person coming from Tensta to do the work. It brings some kind of trust to the people that we're working with.
I think, also it's really important that, you share the same values. You have to have that when you start discussing with these type of partnerships, because that's really the basis for it. And that also, the target groups and you have your roles defined and what you can contribute and collaborate together on.
Well, we have it's been a lot of increased divisions in our society lately. So I want to ask you, Thomas, again, what key factors do you think goes into fostering an inclusive society? And Sophia, you're as well, but it's a joint team. What do you think?
Well, I think you really need to understand, the reason why people feel excluded in the first place. And I think that, exclusion and marginalization of groups in society might grow seeds to, misunderstanding, mistrust, and potentially even violence. So what we learned, and the main finding that comes from this report is, 3 elements to foster inclusion is acceptance, dignity, and diversity. Sweden is very diverse, but it hasn't been accepted yet by other people, which brings some kind of confusion to the, social environment, so to say. So I think, and this also you can find in the report, what you can do as a, business sector, what you can do as an individual. I mean, when it comes to economic inclusion, it's really a matter of, jobs. People need jobs, income.
You used to work for the Swedish employment.
Yeah, I used to work with
them,
youth. It's called Arbetsförmedlingen, which is an employment center. And this was a project that called Job Garage. They were focusing on youth between 16 and 24 years that had difficulty finding jobs because of their backgrounds or their age or lack of skills. So, as important as it is to work with youth, you need to work with the working sector, with the work employers, to make sure that they're also inclusive in their hirement, and that they don't discriminate whether you're a man or a woman, whether you have an immigrant background, your age, sexual, different things.
I also think it's important that this topic and this discussion is not owned by, it doesn't stay in Tensta, it doesn't stay with the politicians. It needs to stay with all of us, the different actors in society. So, I mean, that's why it's crucial for, business to do their part and NGOs and not-for-profits to do theirs. And we all need to be looking for solutions here on better ways to integrate going forward.
Yeah, and talking about everybody, we want to reach out also to the audience and see if we have any questions from anyone here. Hands up high. We have one here? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to repeat that? What you said?
Yeah, no, I think it's the question was about, how do you stay, if I understood it correctly, how do you stay focused with the social mission also when you have the business coming at you and the different things? And I think that if you are a true values-driven business, not a business where maybe you have put the values in place afterwards, but you have a true purpose, a purpose-driven work, then it should be throughout your whole business process and through everything. So I mean, we live the social mission in all our internal programs. I mean, there are some fantastic programs I didn't get to tell you about now about how we source our brownies and how we source our cookie dough, and working with these fantastic organizations that do great work, Greyston Bakery in Yonkers and Rhino Foods and things. So I mean, it has to be credible work that's done in your whole supply chain, your whole value chain, and with all your stakeholders everywhere. And I think also that we have it from the top, where we have the management of the board, and then we have teams that are invested in doing this, of course, helps. And that's a bit more difficult when you're yourself a social entrepreneur struggling to do everything at once. But I mean, I think that the business side of it, if you have a good business and a robust, sustainable business, then the business side of it also comes by being authentic with these issues. Because we hear also the fans don't want to hear what, we can't think this is what the fans want to hear. I mean, we go from our progressive values, that's our standpoint, and then the fans join us.
Yeah. Anyone else? Yep, you in the back. So she asked, how do we find the grassroots organizations to work with?
Well, we work with different grassroots organizations in the different locations that we have, so we always have a local context to it, because it always has to be about, the issues and the problems that are in place and that local context. And I mean, what I can say, it's been a very positive experience from my side working with Interpeace. And I think that that's because we have a very open collaboration and we're very clear on the roles from the start, but that we're also, our idea is to innovate as we go along. I mean, we don't know how the partnership is going to look, but we innovate as we go.
Thank you.
It's funny, I was actually thinking the same way. How did Ben & Jerry find us? How did Interpeace find Ben & Jerry's? Because it's like we're making dialogues and they're making ice cream. So, but I think it's wonderful that they invest some of their resources to contribute to building a peaceful society. It's very it should be in a person's value, really. Just as today's agenda, not agenda, but I would say that people are more conscious about the gender equality today. And I think it's not to just because you have to do it. It's to contribute to a more inclusive and peaceful society, and to see where the feminist progress have gone is reached to the political agenda. So now, for example, we have a football team, and we're pretty new. So we had a friend that made this football team, and we are like 4 people in the board. But to apply for money next year, we need to have just as much girls as boys in the board. So this is very positive, political agenda to apply in, the civil society and to the grassroots level, and, and partnership, open up for these different ideas to bring to the policy and decision maker. But it has to come from the people who lives these lifestyles, you know. And it's very, I think it's very basic and common understanding if you, want to understand the needs and want to contribute. It's more about what can you contribute, not what can you give, you know. It's not like you offer $1 billion or, what can I say? It's to actually offer some of your resources and to, work on them. And you have a sector that works on these issues and you're hired for it. And so I think there's like plenty of ideas if you just want to contribute them.
Great, thanks.
Yeah.
See, any other questions? There we go.
How do you engage internally within Ben and Jerry in these programs, and does that engagement also expand into the rest of Unilever?
Yeah, that's a good question. Oh, yes, repeat the question. Okay, the question was how we work internally on our program so that everybody's on the same page, but also what impact we have on Unilever in terms of the programs that we implement. I'd say that it's still quite a young and entrepreneurial type of organization within a large organization, or a small business within a large business, so that there's a lot of quick communication between the teams. Then we have some structures in place that, we have the European team that collates, and we have the Vermont team, a global team, and we try to do a lot of best practice and a lot of learning so that we really ensure that everybody's aware, but that we're being better each time we do our campaigns and things. So I think that there's a lot of structures in place that help us, but also there's a kind of a team spirit that maybe is harder to define, but it really does its bit. It also helps, of course, that there's the leadership, from the leadership to the very bottom, everybody who's employed, is feeling these kind of values. In terms of our engagement with Unilever and how we do, I think we have, from my experience anyway, a very open dialogue. Unilever is very likes our programs a lot, and we learn from each other. Unilever has also a very ambitious sustainability plan that they're working on, so they're doing excellent work on the SDGs, for instance, in lots of different countries. So I think that there's a very good relationship where we can bring kind of this social activist side, and Unilever has the process side. So I mean, it hasn't been a painless transition, as I've understood this, since acquisition 2000, but there are a lot of good learnings from it, I think, and a good collaboration.
Thanks. We're running out of a little bit of time. We have one more here. Yes, please.
I wonder how you now from the business side of this reform kind of commercialize social mission, because you can see there is of course a benefit from doing certain plans. How do you see this interrelation between doing this great campaign, which is very nice, very good, so that it works, and also getting great revenue?
Can I just say one thing before you start?
Yeah.
Or you want to repeat the question?
No, please, you can repeat.
Okay, the question is, how do you commercial. How when you make money while still doing something good? How do you bridge that gap? How do you feel good about doing that? If I understood. How it works.
Sometimes we have a lot of angry followers too. So I mean, if you stick your neck out, not everybody's going to like what you have to say. I mean, so you have to be, aware of that from the start. It's not only about talking about, light, easy topics. The Black Lives Matter in the U.S., I mean, it got a lot of positive feedback, but there were also some fans who didn't appreciate it. So I think that, what has to be there is that acceptance from the leadership and onwards that, this is what we do. We do take a stand, and that's just accepted. And maybe we don't do the kind of, analysis all the time, or we don't, what effect will this have on sales? I think that what we're learning is that the social mission is actually driving the sales, ironically, because when you're authentic about what you're doing, you know, that's when your business model can flourish, because we really want to see that everybody's flourishing around us. And that's so in effect, you know, it's like a small social entrepreneur that's, you know, within a larger context, I would say.
And what I want to say is just that, I mean, since the 6 years we've done this Sime social impact, there has been, what I always say every year, we were asking for a mind shift, and that has happened. Almost every single new company that comes out of Silicon Valley is value-driven nowadays. You can't have a product without being value-driven. Not everybody, but a lot more than they used to be, which is fantastic. And you have to do that. Otherwise you won't, yeah, I mean, it's a way of selling your products as well.
And as a consumer, you don't just want to be doing it on one end, but I mean, when you go to the shop, you want to have, you know, brands and companies that reflect your values as well. You don't just want to be, you know, working on,
which is great, I think.
Side, but yeah.
Great. But so we soon have to finish, and so I just wanted to see if you wanted to leave the audience with any key messages from your collaboration, or key lessons learned, and what role we all can play together.
Yeah, I would say don't be afraid of innovation, looking for partnerships that are a little bit different, and that maybe from the start say, you know, why would they collaborate with that partner? I mean, that if you keep that kind of innovativeness, if you share the same values, that really works. And then also the second piece is, you know, the question, should an ice cream company have a say on these topics? Why shouldn't an ice cream company have a say on these topics? I think that that's something that we should all demand from corporations around us and from everything. Oh.
Well, I would say more to, you know, take a stand for something. It's really, how do you want your environment to look like? While you're doing your business, you can also, you know, affect your surrounding. So really take a stand on what you want and act on it, and not wait for, you know, any changes. Because I also believe, as you said, I mean, Ben & Jerry's is very tasty. I think everybody likes Ben & Jerry's. But we also know that it costs, you know, it's not the cheapest ice cream.
Definitely.
So instead of, you know, lowering the price, I think it's a good idea to, you know, empower people so we can go and get ice cream from the store. So take a stand for inclusion and really...
Every individual can make a change.
Yeah. It's like everybody can make a change, and everybody has a role to play. Just to go home and find out, like, what role can I have? How can I contribute? What do I do to include others today? Because I know a lot of people come here and listen, and it's a really nice event. I like it a lot. You meet interesting people, but, you know, 2 days, 3 days after this, it's going to be forgotten. So really to take a really stand and, you know, to challenge yourself a little bit and affect others around. Maybe Unilever or maybe you guys, I don't know. But yeah.
Great. Well, thank you very much. And I think that was a great ending note. Mm-hmm. So thank you, everybody. That was it.
Thank you.